Chapter 4. They could hear the sound of children screaming before they'd even stepped out of the car, and Stephen noticed his partner hesitate before heading across an oval towards a large brick building, which was, no doubt, the football club rooms. He'd been paired with Detective Leading Senior Constable Morton Williams for the afternoon's expedition, and, although his older colleague had more than a couple of extra decades on him, he was far from a role model. "You really don't like children, do you?" Stephen said, unable to hide the delight in his voice. A scowl spread across his partner's face, but he got no response. "What is it?" he goaded. "Do they make you feel ancient? Irrelevant? Alone?" "Do you want my help or not?" Morton snapped, still slightly breathless from rushing across the field. Stephen sniggered. One thing you were taught in the police force was to always respect the rank of those above you, but there was little to respect in Morton. Not only was the grumpy detective physically out of shape, his gut hanging unattractively over his trousers, but he was also renowned for being exceedingly lazy. In fact, rumour had it he'd been transferred to the missing persons unit after bungling a major homicide investigation. "Can I help you?" A harried-looking woman in grey tracksuit pants and an oversized jumper was holding the door open. "Are you of the visiting side?" No." Stephen quickly extended a hand as he introduced himself. "And this is DSC Williams." "Detective Leading Senior Constable," Morton corrected. The woman looked less than impressed as she ushered the men through the club rooms. "I already spoke with the police on Saturday, and we have a big group using our facilities at the moment," she said. "It really isn't a great time." "We won't be long," Stephen insisted. The smell of sweat, hormones, and far too much adolescent deodorant created a nauseating aroma as they followed the woman through a gym, complete with inspirational posters on every wall. "Losers talk, but winners work. Pain is temporary, but pride is forever." Stephen watched Morton scan the room, his entire face now set in a glower. "Let's go into the president's office," the woman said, "but I don't have long." An ostentatious trophy cabinet ran along the length of the small room, and plaques covered most of the back wall. "It looks like the football club is very successful." Stephen took the liberty of perching himself on a grey sofa. "No more than any other club." "I assume you'll hear about Natalie Gibson?" Stephen pulled out his notepad. "Yes. Tell us what happened on Friday." The woman's eyes rolled to the ceiling. "Well, as I already told the other officers, I was at the front door, much where I met you today, ticking off arrivals for the last day of the school holiday program. It was around 8:15 when Natalie came in. I remember that because one of our football coaches had wanted to start the warm-up and we were waiting for Dario." "Okay, and what happened next?" The woman shrugged. "Not much. She signed in her 2 children. Dario was booked in for the football clinic, but Aria was doing the general program, so they were taken to separate rooms. And then, from memory, Natalie went and watched all of the first football session out on the oval before leaving. That's the last time I saw her." Stephen shook his right hand. His fingers hurt from gripping the pen too tightly. "How did she seem to you? Was there anything unusual about her behaviour?" Again, the woman seemed frustrated by the line of questioning. Her nostrils flared as she inhaled sharply. "Not that I could tell, but I didn't really talk to her." She paused, twisting her mouth as though considering whether to continue. "I'm just a volunteer here, and like most of the parents, I help as much as I can." "And Natalie didn't help?" Stephen pressed. "No." Again, the woman's nostrils flared. We asked her a few times, but she always had some excuse for why she couldn't chip in. I told her we're all busy, and without volunteers, the club wouldn't survive. I see. Stephen tapped his notepad. And what about her husband, Brian? What was he like? Well, he ended up having to come and pick the kids up on Friday, as I'm sure you know. That was at about 6:30 p.m. I had to stay back late, and I can tell you, I wasn't happy about it. I didn't say much to him, and he's not supposed to be anywhere on our side, of course, but we made an exception this one time. What do you mean he's not supposed to be on your side? The woman's eyes glimmered in a strange, almost demonic way. He was banned from the club a couple of months ago after blowing up at a junior umpire. It was the poor kid's first match, and that oaf threatened to beat the daylights out of him. He's never umpired since. Stephen shot a look at Morton, but was disappointed to see that his colleague was busy picking at whatever bit of food was stuck between his teeth, seemingly oblivious to this juicy bit of information. So Brian has a short temper, does he? You can say that again, the woman snorted. And the son isn't much better, let me tell you. I don't think I'd be speaking out of line if I said all of the parents are hoping he moves to another club. The surprise must have been evident on Stephen's face, because the woman quickly added, "But of course, we're all terribly worried about Natalie. We never want anything bad to happen to her." Of course. The sound of a loud shriek echoed down the hallway, and the woman stood up. "I need to check that they're not damaging anything. It's good for the club to rent their rooms to visiting teams, but it's a bloody pain." Stephen pulled his most sympathetic expression. "Could you just quickly run me through how this holiday program worked?" "There's not much to it," the woman shrugged. "A group of football coaches take most of the sports classes, and then we get qualified child carers to take the other sessions. Painting, reading, whatever. We run the same program every school holiday period." "Did Natalie's children attend every day?" "They came every day of the second week, but they weren't enrolled for the first week." Another loud shriek pierced the air. I really have to go." "Okay, thank you for your time." Stephen stood up, exaggeratedly motioning for Morton to do the same. His colleague had been absolutely useless once again. "Is there a number we can call if we think of anything else?" The woman looked around the office and then plucked a business card from the desk. "These are the details of our club president. He's a better contact than me. I'm really not sure what else I could add." "That's fine," Stephen smiled, taking the card and placing it in his jacket pocket, before deliberately pushing past Morton on his way to the door. "You've been more than enough help already."